Hello! Today I'm using a 5.5mm hook. I don't know what's going on here. The hook was running away from me. It's too tired. I use it all the time. Anyway, for the tutorial, you'll first make a magic knot and we're gonna use single crochet. So make 8 single crochet stitches in the magic knot. If you'd like a tutorial for single crochet, just tell me in the comments. And for the yarn, I used chunky yarn. If you don't have chunky yarn, you can use 2 strands of the small yarn. Also, when you're beginning, use the yarn that you'd like to be the primary color. In other words, the one that takes up most of a hat. So in my case, I wanted the hat to be mostly lilac. That's why I began with this yarn. So that's something to take note of when you're beginning. Once you have your 8 stitches, just pull the middle string and you'll have your little circle. Use a slip stitch to pull it all together, and then from there you'll single crochet 2 stitches into each stitch. So 2 single crochets into each stitch, and the second round should give you a total of 16 stitches. For more details on how to crochet a circle, I posted a video tutorial especially for beginners on how to crochet a circle, so you can go check that out as well. Make sure to count your stitches. Make sure that you have 16 stitches, because if you have more stitches or less stitches, your mistakes are gonna show when you're too far gone, and you don't want to be doing this. I really hate frogging my work, and I know that it's not fun, so just make sure to count. It doesn't take you a lot of time. Also, if you ended up having a longer middle string like me, I don't know if it's called a middle string or what, but if you ended up having a longer one, you can just cut it short, but make sure you don't cut it out completely and don't weave it in either. It comes in handy, especially when you do lose stitches, because that little circle in the middle can be adjusted by moving that string. So make sure you don't cut it all or weave it in. So now that we have 16 stitches, it's time to introduce the second color, which is the secondary color. And you're gonna create a slip stitch, and on the first stitch you're gonna stitch 1 single crochet, and on the second make 2 single crochets. So now we're increasing on every second stitch, and once you have the second single crochet on the second stitch, change your yarn back to the primary color, and then the first stitch, 1 single crochet, the second stitch, 2 single crochets. You're gonna do that for the entire circle. So when you're making a circle, as I explained in my other video, you will increase gradually as you go, and the bigger the circle gets, the less the increases. So on the first round, when we did 8 stitches, that of course didn't have any increases. On the second round, we increased on every single stitch. On the third round, we'll increase on every other stitch. Then on the fourth round, we'll increase on every third stitch. The fifth round will increase on every fourth stitch, and so on and so forth. We'll be following that pattern for the top part of a hat, and as we do that, I'll show you how I added my primary color and secondary color to make the wave pattern. So at this point, we've already added both colors to the circle, and by the end of this round, you should have 4 parts of the primary color and 4 parts of the secondary color. And at this point of the hat, they should be equal. So there should be 3 stitches on each part. So we're gonna slip stitch to start the next round. And for the next round, you're gonna increase on every third stitch. So that means on every third stitch, you're gonna do 2 single crochets as opposed to 1 single crochet on each stitch. And you should also note on this round, once you have increased, you move on to the next color. On the next round, you'll increase on each 4th stitch, and that will give you 5 single crochets for each color. So up to this point, we've been increasing both the primary color and the secondary color simultaneously. That is why we have 5 single crochets for each, but that is gonna change from now onwards. So now you will decrease the primary color and increase the secondary color, but as you're increasing the secondary color, you will add 2 single crochets of the secondary color in the middle of the primary color, as you can see. So at this point, you'll have created like a V structure out of all the secondary colors. As you can see, my V's are created with the dark purple, as that is my secondary color. Also, always make sure that you're not stitching into the slip stitch that you're using to go to the next round, to make sure that you have the correct number of stitches. This is very important because if your count is off, then you're gonna get confused, and the most important thing is to have your count right. Plus, when your count is right, you can see exactly how the wave is coming along, and you can do your own modifications if you'd like. And once you get to the end of a circle and the color is switching, just slip stitch with the color that you're switching it to for an easy transition. So this is how it should look at the end of this round. At this point, it's easier because you will just add the primary color in the middle of the V, making it a wider V. As you do this, still remember you're increasing the circle, and you don't need to worry about it being perfect. The V does not have to be perfect, but you just go along with it. So what you have currently will guide you on how you will move it on. So for example, to create the V, you started with 2 stitches for the primary color. Or the next round you will have 3 stitches. In the next round you will have 5 stitches. So you're just gonna go along with it as you increase the V structures. Also, if you're wondering where the other color is as I go, I'm basically tucking it in so it's easier to transition to the other color, and it also makes it easier for me because I won't have to weave in the ends. You can see the V's coming along nicely, and you're just gonna continue the same process until you have a circle that is big enough to cover the diameter of your head. So that is how you'll know when to stop. So just go on increasing the V until you have way more primary color stitches in the V as compared to between each V structure. This will be your indication of now starting to calculate the stitches for attaching the secondary color for it to become a wave as opposed to now the V structures. It should look something like this, and now I will attach the dark color. So that is basically your secondary color, so there's not gonna be any primary color in between the V's. Make sure to count the stitches because this will guide you on when to start the next batch of waves as well. So count the primary color and also count the secondary colors at that point. You can write it down somewhere for you to remember, and then you're gonna attach all the V's together. Let me show you how. Once you attach all the 4 V's, you should have something that looks like a 4-petaled flower. Also, remember you're still increasing the circle. That is, if you've still not accumulated the measurements that you want. If you don't have a tape measure, just use a piece of yarn. Measure the circumference of your head and use the same string of yarn to measure your circle and see if you have enough or if you need to continue increasing. For me, this was it. This is where I stopped increasing, and from here onwards I continued with the circle just without increasing. And as you'll see, I had a measurement of 23 inches. You can use more or less depending on what you'd like. Usually when I make hats, I prefer having a bigger fit, so I usually prefer having at least 0.5 inches more, because if I have bulky hair, I'd be able to wear the hat without any discomfort. So at this point, I'm counting how many stitches I have on my primary color, as you can see, just to see where I'll introduce the secondary color for the second wave. So for the lilac purple, I have 13 stitches, and since I'm increasing the lilac on both ends as I decrease the dark purple, I'll have 15 stitches of where the lilac is. However, since I want to introduce the 3 stitches of the second wave, I'll do 6 lilacs on each end and then the 3 in the middle. That will total to my 15 stitches of single crochet. At this point, it's gonna be way easier because you're not focusing on increasing. You're gonna only focus on the waves, and I think it's easy to focus on the waves because as soon as you've started your wave, everything else just follows through according to the number of stitches you started with. So at this point, I'm still finishing up on the first wave, the one that looks like a flower. And since I'm increasing the lilac, I'm decreasing the dark purple because I'm no longer increasing the circle. That means I have the same number of stitches on each round. So when I increase one color, automatically the other color has to give a stitch. And in this case, I'm decreasing the dark purple on each end of the flower or the wave. So initially I had 7 single crochets of the dark purple, and since I'm increasing the lilac by 1 stitch on each end, that means I'm decreasing the dark purple by 1 stitch on each end. I'm gonna end up with 5 single crochet of the dark purple. So I'll do that the entire round. Basically 6 stitches of lilac, 3 stitches of purple, 6 stitches of lilac, 5 stitches of purple, then you repeat the whole thing till you finish. This is how it should look once you're done. And now you'll increase the dark purple on the second wave and continue increasing the lilac on the original wave, the one that still looks like a flower. That's because we're finishing up on the first wave. That's why we're increasing the lilac, which is the primary color. And on the second wave, we're beginning. That's why we'll need to increase the dark purple, which is the secondary color. Once you're done, it should look like this. And that marks the end of my first wave. So I will not be adding any dark purple to the first wave, the one that looks like a flower. I will just have the lilac go all over it. But on this round, what I will do is I will increase the dark purple on the second wave. This is easily my favorite part of making this hat because I'm only focusing on this wave that I just introduced. I'm not focusing on any increases or decreases of stitches for the circle. I'm using the same number of stitches on each round, just focusing on changing the colors, and that will be guided by what I see. So in this case, basically I would say this is the easiest part of making this hat. Once you've gotten to this part of a hat, I can say that you can finish the hat very easily because the most complicated part is already done. On the next round, you'll need to count how many stitches of a secondary color you have. In my case, I have 7. And now I would like to introduce the primary color to create the V, if you remember the V from earlier. So I will add 3 lilac stitches to the middle. That will leave me with 2 stitches on each side. But remember that we're still expanding the dark color or the secondary color. So that means that instead of 2 on each side, when you're creating the new stitches, you're gonna do 3 as you decrease the lilac from the edges. So you're gonna have 3 dark, 3 lilac, and 3 dark purple, as you can see here. So I will do that for the entire row. We're only dealing with that wave, so lilac up to the next set of dark purple. So once we get to dark purple, we do the same thing. We have 7 stitches. I start by adding the dark purple right before where the last stitch starts. So basically decreasing the lilac, increasing the dark purple by 1 stitch, adding the 3 stitches of lilac in the middle, 3 more stitches of the dark purple, and do that over and over until you're done with that round. At this point, you should see the curve start to form because you stopped increasing. It's gonna have a little curve. That is natural. That should not scare you. And you're gonna increase the lilac within the V structure as you decrease the lilac in between the V structures. As you do this, continue maintaining the 3 stitches for the dark purple or your secondary color. So as you increase the lilac inside the V, make sure that you still have 3 stitches of your dark purple, just to make sure that it's thick enough. In the case that you have less than 3 stitches, it's gonna look like a zigzag. So for you to get a wavy pattern, make sure you have 3 stitches. Do the same thing until you're done with that round, and you should have something like this. And this is how it looks when you fold it. It's coming along really nice. So you're gonna do the same thing, just increasing the lilac inside the V until you're done. And as you do this, automatically it will result to the lilac in between the V's to reduce because you still have the same number of stitches on each round. As you go, it's gonna look more like a bow. Just go ahead and get it to the point where you are comfortable with. You can use a bucket hat that you own to check where you will stop. But as for me, I just measure, I put it on my head and see if I like the fitting or if I would like to add more rounds to get to a better fitting. The orange and blue hat is what I made originally, and this is what I'm trying to recreate. At this point, I'm counting to see how many rows I'll need to get to the next wave. I have 2 more, so it's the perfect time to start closing up the second wave. So I'll do a dark purple all the way through from one V to the next V structure. It will make it an entire wave structure, but it's not complete yet. So on this round, that's all you'll need to do, and at the same time you're still increasing the lilac stitches within the V structure. So finish up that row, because on the next row we're gonna introduce the third wave. We have 13 single crochets from the last round of lilac, which is our primary color. As we're still increasing the lilac, we're gonna have 15 single crochet slots. So in between the 15 spaces, I'll need 3 single crochet slots for the introduction of a third wave. So that will be 6 lilac single crochets, 3 dark purple single crochets, then 6 lilac single crochets, continuing with the lilac for decreasing the second wave. You're gonna do that all around this row, and at the same time you will decrease the dark purple color that is linked to the second wave. We're decreasing it slowly until we get rid of it, and at this point you can see it's starting to look similar to the first wave, only that it's a bigger wave. So basically all the waves will do the same. It's gonna be a bigger wave for each subsequent wave. It's starting to look like the original heart, and I'm so happy. This row was so satisfying because I had 5 stitches of dark purple, 6 stitches of lilac, 5 stitches of dark purple, and 6 stitches of lilac. It went like that all round. So the increase required 5 stitches of dark purple, and the decrease also required 5 stitches of dark purple. You're gonna do that until the end of that round. For the next round, we're gonna make the edge. So basically it's like ribbing, except it's only for one round and only for the outer part of a stitch. This is to mark where we're gonna start increasing the circle again. Basically, if this were a ruffle hat, this is where I would start making the ruffles from. So that is, in other words, to describe what exactly this is. And as you do that, you'll still be increasing the dark purple for the third wave and decreasing the dark purple for the second wave. So this will also mark the last row of the second wave and the last row that we've not increased the stitches on each round. So from here henceforth, each round will have more stitches, will increase according to the kind of bucket hat that you'd like. If you'd like it to be more flowery, you increase more. If you like it to be just straight, you increase less. Once you're done with this row, you should have a ribbing effect on the inside of the hat, and on the outside you should see like a depression along the entire row. From here, you're gonna increase, and for mine, I didn't want it to be as flowery, so I continued from where I left off. So I stopped increasing on the 10th row. So now I'm gonna increase on each 11th row, and on this row I'm still increasing the third wave, and since I finished with the second wave, I'll stitch the lilac right over it, still increasing the stitches for the entire row. For the next row, I'll increase on each 12th stitch as I work on the third wave. And for the third wave, this is where I'll split it with the primary color. So the same thing that we did on the first wave and on the second wave, once we get to the middle, we're gonna add the primary color, and that will be 3 stitches, and that is still alongside increasing stitches on each 12th row. We'll do this till the end of this round, and once we're done, we're gonna go to the next round. So I'm not keen on giving you the instructions for this part because it's really up to you if you'd like to have a more flowery base or not. So you can do as many increases as you want or as little, but when you're doing the least increases, just follow what I'm doing, the 11th, 12th, 13th. But if you want more, you can do it as many times as you'd like for the stitches to be more than your typical bucket hat. As you do that, continue increasing the lilac or your primary color in between the V structure of your wave. I completely ran out of lilac yarn, so I had to frog an old unfinished piece. You also get to choose the length of your hat. If you want a longer bucket hat, you can do more rounds. If you want a shorter one, you do less rounds. And as you can see, you don't exactly have to finish the third wave or whichever number of waves that you are in, because once you get to the point where you're comfortable with, you can leave it at that. You can also add a lining if you'd like. For this one, I wanted to add a lining but with ruffles, so I wanted to use the secondary color and I cut the lilac, which was my primary color, and for the ruffles I did 3 single crochets on each stitch. You can do more if you'd like more ruffles. At this point I add ruffles on everything. I'm obsessed with them. Tell me in the comments if you prefer how it looks with ruffles or without. And once I was done, I had to weave in the very last end, which was the dark purple end, since I had nowhere to tuck it into. This took me a couple of hours and I really love the results. So tell me anything you'd like more clarification on in the comments, and I would love to know your opinions on this hat, the color combination, and basically what you would like me to make for you next. Like and subscribe. The support really comes a long way, and thank you so much for having me. Bye.